FTR, the bizarre tag team title drop to Big Bill and Ricky Starks on last week's AEW Collision. You watched it? It was a very short match.
Yes, I did watch it. Heard it was a short match because which one was hurt of FTR?
Cash Wheeler. He was the guy with the ribs. He's also the guy who you can see waving a gun around on various freeways here and there.
Well, but I did like Big Bill and Ricky. Is his name Ricky Starks?
Yeah.
There's something to that guy. And I think there's something to this tag team. Before Big Bill became Big Bill, he had a run in WWE, but it was somewhat tainted because he was with a guy named, what's his name? Ismo?
He's Tickle Me Enzo Amore.
Enzo Amore, which I saw not too long ago at a signing up north somewhere, I think somewhere. And I think both of them didn't understand the business. They didn't understand the politics of the business. They didn't understand the culture and the business they got in. I think they thought they were just going to go right to the top, and Big Bill had the size and Enzo had the mouth, and they thought that would take. They didn't know that running that mouth, to me, in that dressing room remains in that dressing room. Not with wrestlers. If they're saying things openly about the booker or how they're being used, that's one thing in the business you don't do. You can't let your competition know, and they are a competition. You can't let your competition know how you feel about certain things you're doing, because they will tell somebody else and somebody else will tell somebody else. And then finally it gets back to Triple H pretty quick. And now he begins reassigning things to whoever said it. And if you say too much that shouldn't be known, Triple H, he gets it in his head. He gets a negative image of you. And then he decides that maybe going with these people is not the right thing. And I base that on immaturity and lack of experience. There's nobody. You don't tell people what you're thinking out loud. Just keep it to yourself and go on. That extends a lot of livelihoods in any business. Don't tell the bosses what you're really thinking. I think common sense should tell you that.
So they were quite well known. I can't remember what it was called. Big Cass. I think he was in WWE
Big
at the
Cass.
time. So him and Enzo were quite well known in the locker room at the time as complaining about creative loudly to anyone who listened.
Well, they were talking to each other, I think, but loud enough for somebody else to kind of hear what they're saying. I don't think they're just going to go in there and say this, but they're talking individually to each other. Now I'm watching, he's called Big Bill now, Big Cass, Big Bill. And he does work pretty good for a big man. He doesn't try to do anything that he can't do. He's not flying around the ring. And actually, this short match, FTR got beat, but they got beat in a way that really doesn't hurt them. This looked like an old school match, and I think somebody has taken over some of these matches in AEW because some of them actually make sense. And of course, we know what the creativity in WWE has done, because if you're really looking at, and I'm all over the place now.
No.
If you're really looking at WWE matches, they've shortened them down, and they put, to make the time, little vignettes in there because of things that are coming, and we'll talk about those things in a minute. That to me is the mark of a great wrestling show. Remember I talked earlier when I was a kid, I didn't know they had other companies in other areas of the country. Well, they're almost doing the same thing, but with people they know. Like I would see as a kid somebody from Atlanta that's beating up somebody on their TV. So when I see that, well, that doesn't look like the TV studio I'm used to watching. It's another studio doing the same thing, but it's like, where is this place? So that creates interest in me. So I think they can do something with this Big Bill and Ricky Starks and let FTR try to come back and get him, because even watching the match, the finish was old school. He got hurt. He can't continue. So two of them, they beat the other guy. That makes total sense. You can't play basketball with 4 guys on a team. The other team has 5. You just can't do it. So if they make you play and you get beat, well, that's expected. You may not want it, but that's what you get.
Yeah, I remember I watched it this morning. I remember thinking, this makes too much sense for AEW. Hang on, so a guy's injured and then he loses because of the injury.
Yeah.
It's like, huh?
Yeah, and that doesn't hurt you. I don't know why they don't do a finish like that. A guy gets hurt, his shoulder gets hurt, his knee gets hurt. He can't make the tag, and he said he just can't get there, so he gives up. He taps out. Well, that makes sense, because you see it in other sports. In football, when a guy gets hurt, what happens? You go out there and you take him out of the game, like soccer. Mm-hmm. If somebody turns their ankle, they can't play, so you take him off. And then if you take a couple of key players off the team, they lose, but they didn't lose because they're a better team beat them. They lost because their stars were out. So losing a match doesn't mean anything if it makes sense. Because if you're trying to come back from that, now we'll see how over they are. But it was a good match, and they did an old school finish, which I liked.